The misconception with nutrition or with any of the things that I've learned that the billionaires have done is they don't listen to what other people say. They use a system and an approach that is very, very, very meticulous and that gives them back a sort of measurable output. So for example, instead of shopping, they're going to allocate that to someone else, much like they do in their business with marketing or sales, etc. They're not the ones that are contributing to the process of fueling. They've removed themselves out of that. And you see this all the time with high performers, but also with the higher service retail industry. You see concierge limousines, you see catering, for example. If you rent an Airbnb in a really nice place, usually it comes with meals. Once you're at that billionaire status, billionaire level, they're not thinking about the minute details of consuming their efforts and energy towards a meal 3 times a day. The shopping, the cooking, the cleaning, the preparation, the ingredients, the quality, the sourcing, the organizing, it's too much. And the misconception in normal life today is a lot of people think you need to be a billionaire to do that, but you don't. I boiled this process down and what they've done into 3 really simple things that we do for our clients across Canada and across the United States. And the 3 things are: don't waste your time, everything doesn't work, and keep it simple. So the first thing, don't waste your time, is what I just explained. The spiel about having somebody or allocating some external resources to get shopping, cooking, cleaning, and not wasting your time with your nutrition. That's the biggest lever that anyone can pull. And if you're savvy and smart about this, I'm going to show you how we went from 15, 20 hours a week all the way down to spending 15 minutes organizing all this. So that time saved component is by far the biggest lever. The second lever is, instead of listening to what people have to say online, we're going to do some simple science. And science is going to tell us exactly what's going to work for you and what's not going to work for you. Because realistically speaking, a lot of the things that pertain to what we hear online, to some extent, we have to admit, we don't know if that's working for the person in front of us. We don't know if they're just saying that to get views or to get content or to generate an audience. We have no clue, and we cannot prove, and it's not in our parameters of control, that the advice that we hear externally and these fad diets, etc., are what's actually going to move the needle forward for us. It's just not going to work. And then the last thing is keep it all simple and keep it in one place. So what billionaires do is they'll combine and they'll collate their doctor, their nutritionist, their trainer, their physiotherapist, their whole ecosystem for their health is given to somebody else. That kind of like a project manager, but like a life manager in a way. And that person is responsible for sharing the insights amongst the in-person health team. It's what Brian Johnson does. It's what Bill Gates does. And you can best believe that Bill Gates is not the one talking to his doctor. He's not the one talking to his trainer or his nutritionist or his housekeeper. There's somebody in place that's allocated and organizing the distribution of all of those things that he needs to live longer, for example. Now for nutrition specifically, we're going to break this down into 3 points. The first one being nutrition, the second one being shopping, and the last one being cooking and automation. Now, when it comes down to nutrition, the overarching aspect of what nutrition is, and I'm just going to hop in here and read a summary of what Google and ChatGPT say nutrition is nutrition is the process of consuming, absorbing, and utilizing nutrients from food to support growth, development, and maintenance of life. So if you look at the lineage, and we're really going to deep dive this subject because the goal of me sitting here in front of the camera talking to you today is for you to understand the consensus for what is nutrition for you. What does it mean to understand nutrition? Not what you've been fed, not what you've heard nutrition is, not what maybe you know what nutrition is, but what is nutrition truthfully? We're going to start 300,000 years ago. That's around the first instances of Homo sapiens being found in Africa to now, okay? Throughout the entire lineage of humanity for those 299,999,000 years, humans have eaten whole foods, okay? Meat, water, grains, fruits, vegetables. They haven't been sprayed with pesticides, or they haven't even touched plastic. They haven't touched metal or wood cartridges. It's just been those things. They've been stored in, sure, wooden baskets and, makeshift clay fridges that are buried under the earth to be cool in at least the Byzantine Empire. But that's what humans have eaten. Now, think about the consequences when the 1960s rolled around and MSG, high fructose corn syrup, preservatives, additives, aspartame. That was what, 60 years ago? So that's a small, minuscule amount of time that humans have spent eating whole foods. So immediately, the first thing when it comes down to nutrition is being able to align yourself with what humans have evolved eating. Very simple, and it's a no-brainer. Now, that doesn't just mean cutting out 99% of things. It means understanding the root cause, not the root cause, the root trace source of where you're buying your stuff, okay? Back then, humans would find a cow in the wild that's lived its whole life, and they would kill it, they'd butcher it, boom, meat for the year, whatever. That doesn't exist very easily nowadays. Grass-fed, grass-finished beef, even as labeling, you still don't know where your meat's coming from. You don't know if the labeling has been thrown on or if the inspector has properly assessed that it's grass-fed, grain-finished, etc. That's just what the packaging is in front of us. So the number one lever that you can pull for your nutrition is going for quality and removing everything that didn't exist 2,000 years ago or 20,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago to the best of your ability. And this will highly increase your quality of living. When it comes down to quality, I really want you to picture how granular you have to be. I'm in an apartment right now. I'm in a skyscraper 50 floors above the earth. The amount of piping that has to get up to this point to bring water to me, for me to wash my hands, what are all the metals that all that piping goes through? And that's just one small emphasis of how much the quality has changed to where we once were and what we've evolved with. And a lot of problems can be traced to quality decreasing and all these additives and chemicals and heavy metals increasing. So we see quality going down and we see those harsh ingredients increasing. Obviously, there's going to be a problem there. Now, the second thing is contaminants. So the equipment that you're using around the space, what's going into your food, how it's being prepared, make sure that the equipment is dialed in, the timing of meals. So back in those 200,000 to 300,000 years of human evolution, we didn't eat 3 meals a day. So a quick lever that you can pull is just do intermittent fasting from 7 p.m. the day before all the way to 12 p.m. the next day. Just reduce the amount of times the stomach has to invoke some sort of effort to digest food. The more you slow down how much you need to digest things, the better it is. And that's usually why people see such a big benefit from the keto diet, because they don't really spike their insulin as much as opposed to a high carb diet like veganism. Now, the reason why I bring that up and the reason why these two diets, and you see them all online, they work for people, is because you can theoretically lose weight in the retrospect of thermodynamics. If you're burning and you're running, or swimming in the ocean or running a ton, and you're burning so many calories, you can be vegan and you'll lose weight if you're in a caloric deficit. So understand that nutrition is not just an all-encompassing topic that applies to everything. It's a subject, and that subject needs to meet you where you're at in order for you to get the most out of it. Here's a great example. I'm currently training for the Vancouver Marathon. That is Sunday, that's in 2 days. And I mainly eat 3 meals a day. For the most part, that pertains to around 100 grams of carbs per meal, leading up to this taper week, because I need to consume more carbs before my race. I eat protein at every meal. I have around 200 to 250 grams of protein a day. I'm 215 pounds at 6'5" currently. I eat the same thing over and over again. Ground lamb, ground beef, chicken, adding a little bit of seasoning here and there, vegetables, rice, legumes. I feel amazing, and that's what works for me in my nutrition. I was also vegan 3 years ago when I was biking a lot, training for Ironman all the time. That was my main focus. Because I was moving so much, and because my resting metabolic rate, how much energy my body needs to consume, is so high, I got away with it. But the moment I sat in front of my desk and I stopped moving, like I am right now talking to you, and this is why a lot of people don't see success with supplementation. Again, trace down to the quality. You cannot prove, and you don't have the true idea of where the supplement comes from. It just says on the label, but you don't know if it's being, milled in plastic containers, or if there's contaminants or the true trace particles. It's mainly built on blind faith and trust. And supplements are not going to make it or break it for nutrition. They're merely supplemental. So the goal is for the diet to encompass a wide array of the amount of the things that you want to be supplementing. So if it's hard to find fish, you're still getting high protein from your diet, and then you take a high quality omega-3 pill, so that way you're not sacrificing the fact that you need to consume low quality fish to get your omega-3s, for example, really broad. The other way I've seen supplements help a lot is with natural testosterone boosters and natural levers for focus, like adaptogenic mushrooms, as well as Tongat Ali, Fedoja, and things along that line of thinking, and supplementing as opposed to supplementing for a specific nutrient. Shopping is one of the most difficult things that not a lot of people nail, but they haven't systemized it, nor is it systemized for anyone really. And the reason being is because it's based preliminarily on taste buds. And taste buds are the number one root cause for suffering when it comes down to nutrition. If you can't understand the way that your mind has biases and is fully in control of what you want to put into it, and you're going to let your taste buds run rampant, you can evidently see the results of that in the United States, for example, where the entire aspect of feeding the populace and the population is revolving around the instances of taste. Now, I'm not going to demonize taste buds, but the aspect of not being able to realize that taste buds are holding you back from getting the true type 2 dopamine from food is the realization that a lot of people need to have. Eating ground beef and eating rice every day does not taste amazing. It tastes, for me, like 7 or 8 out of 10. I can add some seasoning or some hot sauce, and that will help it taste better. But in the grand scheme of things, a burger is going to taste better. But just because something tastes better doesn't mean the after effects of it, in regards to my sleep, performance, aesthetics, are worth the satisfaction of consumption. The beef bowl, although it's not a 10 out of 10, is an 8 out of 10 that fuels me very well. And the way that billionaires have orchestrated this is they'll trace the true origin source of all of these things. So they'll send somebody to the farm to go and see the animals and how they're raised and trace the origin of the milk, the rice, the grains, etc. They'll clean it from all the starches, and they'll go down the supply chain in the line to make sure that there's no type of chemicals, additives, ingredients, or foods that are, or companies that are doing these shortcuts to try and scale up their product at the cost of quality and harm to the consumer, because it's very easy to neglect those aspects of nutrition currently. They're not highly regulated, nor do people seem to care a lot about them, and that is the mass scale problem with shopping. And for shopping specifically, it can get a little tedious, and what we do at Optimobility is we'll orchestrate a shopping list based on the exact specifics of the meals that the client is consuming, multiplied by the total amount of the said meals are being consumed in a week. So if I have 4 beef bowls in a week, and then I layer on 4 chicken bakes and rice, for example, and then I have tandoori chicken, and then I have some fresh salmon and vegetables. So in total, let's say 16 meals. We've orchestrated our software to multiply the ingredients in each of those meals by that number, and then create a collated shopping list for the week. So that way shopping only has to be done one time. And with that regard, it's a lot easier to get enough food, so the constant trips of running around to the grocery store are actually reduced for no real reason, because the total amount is calculated on a premises of truth, and those meals are built based on the blood work, DNA data, as well as gut testing, on top of the DEXA scan macronutrient layout that we use for our clients. So we've gone down the chain of assembly to realize, okay, how is this meal plan being built? What are the quality of ingredients? What are the macros? What are the sources of truth? And we've gone down that line, and we've orchestrated it in a way that is simply the most efficient and the most truthful way to find accuracy with nutrition. Now, the last thing is cooking and automation. And just speaking from a point of truth, we've had people that have paid us in full for our full-scale coaching model. And we've also have people that pay us for the housekeeper, chef, installation, and management. And the cause of success is not the coaching. It's not the meal plan. It's not the shopping list. It's not anything that I've spewed to you this point. Because all of that stuff is information. It doesn't matter if I give you the best shopping list or the best orchestration of ways to shop for something. Bill Gates is not going to shop at Costco. He's going to get someone else to do it. And that is the pivotal piece, is the automation aspect. So you have the truthful information. So how are you deriving this meal plan? How do you know it's going to work for you? How do you know it's truthful? What is it rooted in? And what parameters of control, and where are you getting this information? That's one piece that we've talked about so far. And then the next piece is the automation piece, which is implementing it for yourself. You're spending around 12 to 15 hours every single week cooking, cleaning, folding your socks, and doing things that you're going to have to do for the rest of your life, and you simply fail to recognize them as not needle-moving activities because they're not categorized in business. The things that take up the most amount of our time are the things that we don't notice. They're the things that fall under the rug. They're the bad relationships that we have, that we are too lazy, or that we are just too lost, or we're too discouraged, especially with nutrition and fitness and health. It's discouragement. It's very difficult to find accurate information that works, or a system that is going to empower you. And it's the exact same thing with cooking, cleaning, shopping, all of those things. And Bill Gates is not doing those things. It's his maids, nannies, and chefs that are doing them. And this is what hammers home one aspect that is super important, which is consistency. By simply getting somebody to come in twice a week, prepare meals Monday to Thursday, Thursday to Sunday, he's set. He's fully set. Doesn't need to shop, doesn't need to cook, doesn't need to clean. He puts his dishes in the sink or the dishwasher, and then on Thursdays, the person that prepares those meals comes in, cleans it all up, and prepares meals for the next batch. That consistency is what is going to give you the performance boost that you're looking for. Without that consistency and without that system in place, all you have is information. And unapplied information is just clutter that is forgotten. That's why health doesn't work for a lot of people, is because it takes a lot of grit and determination to do this all yourself. And what I'm here saying and spewing to you is you don't need to do that. There's a smarter way to do this, and there's a smarter way to implement it. And that is by hiring somebody and training them on a system of truth and information that you've gathered to implement things that work for you. The consistency of having 16 meals that are designed for you in your fridge, ready to eat and consume at any point in time, whenever you're hungry, ideally with fasting windows and all those things, having that done for you is going to buy back thousands of hours on your life, depending on when you start it. And that's going to free up your plate with family, with work, etc. And that is by far a big needle moving activity that costs you as much as Uber eating. And the shift comes when you realize just how delicate the process is for all these things that I've talked about and how they interlay. So with training specifically, we have a high performance trainer on our team. He's an ex-Ironman pro athlete, top 5 in Canada, Jameson Pluis, search him up, please. And the number one thing that he says with training or finding success with anything is consistency. So it's less about the information on how to train, but it's, can you show up every day and get better over the span of 2, 3, 4, 5 months for the rest of your life? And what you're doing to set yourself up for that line of consistency is completely in your parameters of control. And this entire video was to showcase the premise of, okay, the billionaires, the people at the top, let's dissect what they're doing, let's understand how it's being implemented now, and let's figure out a way to kind of funnel hack it and see and orchestrate it so that it works for us. And if you're curious about more of the process, we're all over social media. Instagram is Optimability. You can hit us up on there. LinkedIn Optimability. My LinkedIn is Eon Popov. Same thing, LinkedIn Optimability. Like I mentioned, we have a website, etc. So hopefully that gives you some more groundwork to play around with.